The stars looked different from this side of the galaxy. Taemin stood in the engineering bay of the human starship, checking the gravity systems for the 10th time that morning. Everything had to be perfect today. The Veltorians were coming, and this was humanity's first real chance to make friends among the stars. Taemin was 28 years old and had been working as an engineer for 3 years. He liked his job because it was quiet and predictable. He fixed things, kept the ship running, and stayed away from the complicated political stuff. That was how he liked it, but today was different. Today nothing would be quiet or predictable. The communication panel on the wall beeped. Taemin pressed the button and heard Captain Hyunwoo's voice. "Taemin, report to the main reception hall immediately. We need all senior staff present for the arrival." Taemin felt his stomach drop. "Captain, I'm just an engineer. Shouldn't I stay here and monitor the systems?" "The systems will be fine. This is a historic moment. Everyone needs to be there." The captain's voice was firm but not unkind. "That's an order." Taemin changed into his formal uniform and made his way through the ship's corridors. Other crew members rushed past him, all heading in the same direction. Everyone looked nervous. He wasn't the only one who felt the pressure. The reception hall was the largest room on the ship. Usually it was used for crew gatherings and celebrations. Today, it had been transformed into something that looked like a throne room. Banners hung from the walls. The lighting had been adjusted to be softer and more welcoming. Ambassador Jiwon stood at the front reviewing notes on her tablet. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an impressive record of negotiations. If anyone could make this first contact work, it was her. She looked up as Taemin entered and gave him a small nod. "Good, you're here. Stand with the technical team on the left side. Remember the briefing about Veltorian customs. Do not touch them unless they initiate contact first. Do not stare directly at their face markings. And whatever you do, stay calm and respectful." Taemin joined the other engineers and scientists. His colleague Da-Yun stood beside him. She was a xenobiologist who had studied every piece of information humanity had about alien species. She smiled at him, but he could see she was nervous too. "Have you ever seen a Veltorian?" Taemin whispered. "Only in pictures," Da-Yun replied. "They're supposed to be beautiful. Their skin changes color based on their emotions, and they're very formal. Their culture has thousands of rules about behavior and respect." "That sounds complicated." "It is. Just follow the ambassador's lead and you'll be fine." Captain Hyunwoo entered the hall wearing his dress uniform. He was a tall man with gray hair and a commanding presence. Everyone straightened up when they saw him. He walked to the front and stood beside Ambassador Jiwon. "Listen carefully," the captain said. "The Veltorian delegation will arrive in 10 minutes. Princess Ariva herself is leading their group. This is a great honor. She is the heir to the Veltorian Empire, and she chose to meet us personally. Do not disappoint me. Do not disappoint humanity." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what was at stake. Humanity had only been traveling through space for 50 years. They were newcomers in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations. Most alien species ignored humans or saw them as primitive. The Veltorians were different. They had reached out and offered to talk. This was humanity's chance to prove they belonged among the stars. A chime sounded. The main doors opened slowly. A wave of cool air entered the room, carrying a strange, sweet smell like flowers and metal mixed together. The Veltorians entered. They walked with perfect grace, their movements smooth and coordinated. There were 6 of them, all wearing flowing robes that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their skin was pale blue with silver markings that ran down their necks and arms. Their eyes were large and dark, and their faces were angular and beautiful. But everyone's attention was on the one in the center. Princess Ariva was taller than the others. Her robes were white and gold, and her skin markings glowed faintly. She moved like water, each step deliberate and elegant. When she entered the room, it felt like the air itself changed. Ambassador Jiwon stepped forward and bowed in the Veltorian style, pressing her hands together and lowering her head. "Welcome, Princess Ariva. We are honored by your presence." The princess studied the ambassador for a moment, then returned the bow. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "The honor is mutual, Ambassador Jiwon. Your species has shown courage in reaching out to us. We are curious to learn more about humanity." The formal greetings continued. The princess was introduced to Captain Hyunwoo and the other senior officers. She spoke carefully, using the human language with only a slight accent. Her attendants stood behind her in perfect formation, watching everything. One of the Veltorian guards caught Taemin's attention. He was broader than the others, with darker skin markings and a weapon attached to his belt. His eyes constantly scanned the room, looking for threats. This had to be Commander Velrath, the princess's personal protector. After the formal introductions, Ambassador Ji-wan suggested a tour of the ship. The princess agreed, saying she wanted to understand human technology better. This was part of the plan. Showing the Veltorians humanity's achievements might convince them that humans were worth befriending. The group moved through the ship. They visited the medical bay, the navigation center, and the hydroponics gardens where food was grown. The princess asked questions about everything. She seemed genuinely interested in how humans lived and worked in space. Finally, they reached the engineering bay. This was Taemin's domain. Captain Hyunwoo gestured for him to step forward. Princess Arriva, this is Taemin, one of our engineers. He maintains our gravity and propulsion systems. The princess turned to look at him. Her dark eyes met his, and Taemin felt his breath catch. She was even more striking up close. Her skin seemed to glow from within, and her markings shifted slightly in color. Fascinating, she said. I would like to learn about your gravity systems. Our technology works differently. A comparison would be valuable. Taemin found his voice. Of course, princess. If you'll follow me, I can show you the main control station. He led her to the holographic display that showed the ship's gravity field. The princess leaned forward, studying the swirling patterns of blue and green light. Her attendants and the human delegation crowded around them. Taemin began explaining how the system worked using simple terms. The princess listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed she understood complex concepts quickly. He relaxed slightly, falling into the comfortable rhythm of talking about his work. He didn't notice that he had stepped backward while gesturing at the display. He didn't see the princess lean closer to examine a particular detail. And he certainly didn't expect what happened next. The moment that would change everything was about to occur, and Taemin had no idea his simple life was about to become very complicated. The holographic display showed complex patterns of energy that kept the ship's artificial gravity stable. Taemin moved his hands through the light, adjusting the projection to show different layers of the system. Princess Arriva watched with deep interest, her head tilted slightly as she studied the human technology. Your approach is very different from ours, she said. We use crystalline matrices to manipulate gravitational fields. Your method seems more adaptable but less efficient. Taemin nodded, pleased that she understood the trade-off. Yes, that's exactly right. Human technology focuses on flexibility. We can adjust the system quickly if something goes wrong. It uses more power, but it's more reliable in emergencies. The princess leaned even closer to the display, reaching out as if to touch the light patterns. Taemin stepped back to give her more room, his attention focused on the control panel to his right. He wanted to adjust the brightness so she could see the details better. He took another step backward. His foot found solid ground, but then it didn't. His heel caught on a small maintenance tool that someone had left on the floor. His balance shifted suddenly. His arms went out instinctively, searching for something to grab. Time seemed to slow down. Taemin felt himself falling backward. The princess was right behind him. His hand reached out and found fabric, then something solid beneath it. He squeezed, trying to stop his fall. His other hand grabbed the edge of a console. He caught himself. He didn't fall, but his right hand was resting on something soft and warm. The fabric of the princess's robe was smooth under his palm, and beneath it was the curve of her lower back, right where it met her hips. Taemin's brain registered what he was touching. Horror flooded through him. He yanked his hand back as if he had touched fire. The entire engineering bay went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every human and Veltorian turned to look at them. Ambassador Ji-won's face went pale. Captain Hyunwoo's eyes widened in shock. Dayun covered her mouth with her hand. Commander Velrath moved with frightening speed. His hand went to the weapon at his belt. Two other Veltorian guards stepped forward, their bodies tense and ready. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Taemin stood frozen, his hand still raised in the air where he had pulled it back. His heart hammered in his chest. He had just touched an alien princess in a place that was definitely inappropriate. He had violated their customs on the first day of first contact. He might have just started an interstellar incident. Princess, he started to say, but his voice cracked. Princess Arriva had gone very still. She stood with her back to him for a long moment. Her skin markings pulsed with colors that Taemin didn't understand. Blue, then silver, then something that looked like gold. Her attendants watched her carefully, their expressions unreadable. Then the princess turned around. She looked directly at Taemin. Her large, dark eyes studied his face, moving from his wide eyes to his open mouth to his trembling hands. She seemed to be analyzing every detail of his expression. Taemin couldn't read her face. Was she angry, offended? Would she demand punishment? Would she end the alliance before it even began? Then something unexpected happened. The corner of the princess's mouth moved. It was small at first, just a tiny shift in her expression. Then it grew into something that looked like a smile. Not a big smile, but genuine. "I like it," she said in her accented standard language. Everyone stared at her. Nobody moved. Nobody seemed to breathe. The princess continued speaking, her voice calm and thoughtful. "Your humans do not cower or apologize excessively." This one acted on instinct to prevent harm. He did not calculate or think about protocol. He simply moved to catch himself and in doing so touched me. She turned to address Ambassador Ji-won and Captain Hyun-woo. "In my culture, uninvited touch is a serious offense. But context matters. This was an accident. More importantly, it reveals something about your species. You act on reflex. You prioritize preventing injury over following rules." Commander Velrath's hand moved away from his weapon, but he still looked suspicious. "Princess, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No need, Commander." Princess Ariva's voice was firm but kind. "I am not offended. In fact, I find this instructive. Tell me, Engineer Taemin, what were you thinking in that moment?" Taemin's mouth was dry. He struggled to find words. "I was falling. I didn't want to knock you over. I just reached out without thinking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch you inappropriately. And that is precisely why it interests me," the princess said. "You did not think. You simply acted to prevent both of us from being hurt. That kind of instinct is rare among my people. We think too much. We calculate every action. Sometimes that makes us hesitate when we should act." Ambassador Ji-won stepped forward carefully. "Princess Ariva, we deeply apologize for this breach of protocol. Engineer Taemin will face appropriate discipline." "No." The princess's voice was sharp. "There will be no discipline. I have declared it was an accident and that I am not offended. To punish him now would insult my judgment. Do you understand?" The ambassador bowed quickly. "Of course, Princess. As you wish." The tension in the room eased slightly, but everyone still seemed nervous. Taemin noticed that the Veltorian attendants were whispering to each other. Their skin markings flickered with colors he couldn't interpret. They kept glancing at the princess, then at him, then back to the princess. Princess Ariva returned her attention to the holographic display as if nothing had happened. "Please continue your explanation, Engineer Taemin. I wish to understand more about your gravity manipulation techniques." Taemin's hands shook as he resumed the demonstration. His voice was unsteady at first, but he forced himself to focus on the work. The princess asked more questions, all of them intelligent and probing. She seemed genuinely interested in the technology, but Taemin noticed something had changed. The princess stood a little closer to him than before. When she asked questions, she directed them to him specifically, even though there were other engineers in the room who could answer, and several times he caught her watching him when she thought he wasn't looking. The tour continued through the rest of the engineering section. Captain Hyun-woo and Ambassador Ji-won tried to act normal, but Taemin could see the tension in their shoulders. Daeun stayed close to him, probably ready to pull him away if he made another mistake. When the tour finally ended and the Veltorian delegation prepared to return to their own ship, Princess Ariva paused at the airlock door. She looked back at Taemin, who stood with the other crew members. "Engineer Taemin," she called out. He stepped forward, his heart racing again. "Yes, Princess. I will be returning tomorrow for additional discussions with your captain and ambassador. I would like you to be present during the technical briefings. Your insights on human engineering would be valuable." It wasn't really a request. Taemin bowed in the Veltorian style. "It would be an honor, Princess." She smiled again, that same small, genuine smile, and then she was gone. The airlock sealed behind her delegation. As soon as the Veltorians were out of sight, everyone started talking at once. Captain Hyun-woo pulled Taemin aside, along with Ambassador Ji-won and Da-un. They moved to a private conference room. "What just happened?" Captain Hyun-woo demanded. "Did that go well, or did we just barely avoid disaster?" Ambassador G1 paced back and forth. I'm not sure. The princess said she wasn't offended, but her behavior was strange. And did you see how her attendants reacted? They seemed shocked. Daeun was frantically reviewing her notes on her tablet. According to what we know about Veltorian culture, uninvited touch is extremely serious. It's usually grounds for severe punishment. But the princess not only forgave it, she seemed pleased by it. That doesn't match any of the cultural data we have. Taemin sat down heavily. His legs felt weak. I'm so sorry. I didn't see the tool on the floor. I should have been more careful. It's done now, the captain said. The question is what happens next. Why did the princess specifically request your presence at tomorrow's meetings? Nobody had an answer. They sat in silence, all wondering the same thing. Had Taemin's accident somehow helped the alliance, or had it created a problem they didn't understand yet? Tomorrow would bring answers, but tonight brought only questions and worry. Taemin didn't sleep well that night. He kept replaying the moment in his mind, feeling his hand touch the princess's lower back, seeing the shocked faces of everyone in the room. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Commander Velrath reaching for his weapon. Morning came too quickly. Taemin dragged himself to the mess hall for breakfast. The moment he entered, conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look at him. Word had spread through the ship. Everyone knew what happened. He grabbed a tray of food and sat in a corner, hoping people would leave him alone. They didn't. Within minutes, 3 other engineers joined his table. So what did it feel like? One of them asked with a grin. Not appropriate, Taemin said firmly. Come on, you touched an alien princess. That's got to be worth something. Did her skin feel different? Taemin stood up, taking his tray with him. I'm not discussing this. It was an accident, nothing more. He found Daeun sitting alone near a window. She waved him over. Her expression was serious, not curious or teasing like the others. How are you holding up? She asked. I've been better. Taemin sat down and pushed his food around without eating. Everyone's talking about it. Of course they are. First contact with an alien species and one of us accidentally gropes their princess. It's the kind of story people will tell for years. I didn't grope her, Taemin protested. I was falling and reached out to catch myself. I know that, but the story gets more interesting with each retelling. Daeun pulled out her tablet. I've been doing more research on Veltorian culture. I found some things that might explain what happened yesterday. Taemin leaned forward. What did you find? Veltorian society is based on touch hierarchy. Different body parts have different levels of significance. The face and head are most sacred. The hands are for formal interaction. The torso is neutral territory. She paused. The lower back and hips are considered intimate zones. Only family members or bonded partners are allowed to touch there. Taemin felt his stomach drop. So I did something really bad. You should have, yes. But here's the interesting part. In Veltorian history, there are stories about warriors and heroes who touched royalty during emergencies. When someone acts to prevent injury or save a life, the touch is evaluated differently. It's seen as instinct overcoming calculation. The princess said something like that, Taemin remembered. Exactly. But there's more. Daeun lowered her voice. In Veltorian courtship traditions, instinctive protective behavior is highly valued. They have this concept called Valkresh, which roughly translates to unthinking courage. It means acting without hesitation to protect someone you care about. But I don't care about the princess. I just met her yesterday. I know, but that's not how it looked. To the Veltorians, you instinctively reached out to stabilize both of you. You prioritized her safety over protocol. That's Valkresh. Taemin rubbed his face with his hands. This is getting too complicated. It gets more complicated. I talked to one of the linguistic specialists. She analyzed the princess's tone and word choice. When the princess said, I like it, she wasn't talking about being touched. She was talking about your instinct, your reflex. She liked that you acted without thinking about consequences. Before Taemin could respond, a message appeared on both their tablets. Captain Hyunwoo wanted to see them in his office immediately. The captain's office was larger than most rooms on the ship, with windows that looked out at the stars. Ambassador Ji-won was already there. Along with 2 other senior officers Taemin didn't know well. Sit down, the captain said. His tone was neutral, which somehow made Taemin more nervous. The Veltorian delegation just sent a message, Ambassador Ji-won began. Princess Ariva has made a formal request. She wants Engineer Taemin assigned as her personal liaison for all technical matters during her visit. Taemin blinked. What does that mean? It means whenever the princess has questions about human technology, you answer them. Whenever she tours a technical area of the ship, you accompany her. You become her primary point of contact for anything related to engineering or science. Why me? There are dozens of engineers and scientists more qualified. The captain folded his hands on his desk. That's what we'd like to know. The princess was very specific in her request. She mentioned your instructive behavior and your unfiltered approach to problem solving. I think she likes him, Do-yoon said. Everyone looked at her. She shrugged. I mean, not romantically necessarily, but she's interested in him specifically. Based on Veltorian cultural patterns, I think she sees him as representing something about humanity that intrigues her. Ambassador Ji-won nodded slowly. That aligns with my analysis. The princess has been researching Earth and human culture extensively. She's looking for something. I think yesterday's incident gave her a data point she found valuable. So what do I do? Taemin asked. You accept the assignment, the captain said firmly. This is a diplomatic situation. The princess has made a request and refusing would be an insult. You'll be briefed on proper protocols. You'll wear a communication device so we can guide you if needed, and you'll report everything she says or does that seems significant. Taemin felt trapped. I'm an engineer, not a diplomat. Which is apparently exactly what she wants, Ambassador Ji-won said. She doesn't want careful political speech. She wants genuine human interaction. You can provide that. The meeting continued for another hour. Taemin was given a list of topics to avoid, proper ways to address the princess, and emergency phrases to use if things went wrong. His head spun with information. When he finally left the captain's office, he found Da-eun waiting outside. She fell into step beside him as they walked through the corridor. This is a huge opportunity, she said. Do you realize that? You get to interact directly with an alien royal. You can learn things about their culture that no other human knows. Or I can make another mistake and ruin everything. You won't. Just be yourself. That's what she wants. They reached the engineering bay. Taemin's shift was about to start and he had work to do. But he couldn't focus. His mind kept returning to the princess's words. I like it. What did she really mean? Hours later, another message arrived. The Veltorian delegation would arrive in 30 minutes. Princess Ariva wanted to tour the ship's propulsion systems. Taemin was requested to lead the tour. He changed into a clean uniform and made his way to the docking area. Ambassador Ji-won and 2 security officers met him there. The ambassador pulled him aside for last-minute instructions. Remember, be respectful but natural. Answer her questions honestly. Don't try to impress her or act like someone you're not. The airlock opened. The Veltorians entered, their robes flowing behind them. Princess Ariva walked at the center of the group, as graceful as before. Her skin markings glowed softly, shifting through shades of blue and silver. Her eyes found Taemin immediately. She smiled, that same small, genuine smile from yesterday. Engineer Taemin, she said, walking directly to him. I am pleased to see you again. He bowed in the Veltorian style. The honor is mine, Princess Ariva. I'm ready to show you our propulsion systems. Excellent. I have many questions about human space travel. Your methods are quite different from ours. She gestured for him to lead the way. As they walked through the ship, Taemin became aware that the princess was studying him as much as she was studying the technology. She asked about his training, his background, how he became an engineer. The questions felt personal, not just professional. Commander Velrath followed closely behind them, his expression watchful and suspicious. The other Veltorian attendants whispered among themselves. Their skin markings flickering with colors that Taemin was starting to recognize meant surprise or confusion. They reached the propulsion control room. Taemin began explaining the human faster-than-light drive system. The princess listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed she understood complex physics, but then she asked something unexpected. Taemin, do humans always act on instinct like you did yesterday? He paused, unsure how to answer. Sometimes. When there's danger or an emergency, we don't have time to think. We just react. Fascinating. My people have lost that ability. We think too much. We calculate every action and every consequence. She looked sad for a moment. Sometimes I wonder if we have become too rigid, too afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes help us learn, Taemin said. That's what my teachers always told me. The princess tilted her head. A simple truth, but profound. Perhaps that is what I am searching for. Taman didn't understand what she meant, but he sensed it was important. The princess wasn't just interested in human technology. She was interested in something deeper about humanity itself, and somehow his accidental touch had opened a door to that understanding. The formal dinner was supposed to be a celebration. 3 days had passed since Princess Ariva arrived, and the negotiations between humans and Veltorians were going well. Captain Hyun-woo had ordered the ship's chefs to prepare the best meal possible, combining human and Veltorian food preferences. Taemin sat at the long table, uncomfortable in his dress uniform. He had been placed near the middle of the table, not important enough to sit with the senior officers, but not far enough away to avoid attention. Princess Ariva sat at the head of the table beside Captain Hyun-woo and Ambassador Ji-won. The dinner had been pleasant so far. Both humans and Veltorians were making an effort to be friendly. Taemin was starting to relax, thinking maybe the evening would pass without incident. Then the other Veltorian ship arrived. Captain Hyun-woo received the message during the meal and looked concerned. A delegation from another Veltorian noble family was requesting permission to dock. They said they had come to observe the historic first contact. Princess Ariva's expression darkened when she heard the news. Her skin markings shifted to deeper blue, almost purple. Commander Velrath leaned close to whisper something to her. She shook her head firmly. "Let them come," the princess said. "We cannot refuse without causing offense." 20 minutes later, the new delegation entered the dining hall. There were 5 of them, led by a tall Veltorian male with dark green skin markings. He wore robes that were even more elaborate than the princess's, covered in metallic threads that caught the light. "Princess Ariva," he said, bowing formally. "I am Lord Kethaval of the House of Rendar. I heard about your meeting with the humans and had to see for myself." The princess returned the bow, but her movements were stiff. "Lord Kethaval, your arrival is unexpected. I hope not unwelcome." Kethaval's eyes swept across the humans at the table. His expression showed barely concealed disdain. "I am curious about these creatures you have chosen to befriend." Ambassador Ji-won stood and offered the traditional greeting. Kethaval acknowledged her with a minimal bow, the kind that was technically polite but clearly insulting. He and his attendants were given seats at the table, and the dinner continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Kethaval dominated the conversation, asking pointed questions about human history, technology, and culture. His tone made every question sound like a challenge. "Tell me," Kethaval said, addressing Captain Hyun-woo, "how long has your species been traveling through space?" "About 50 years, the captain replied. 50 years. Kethaval smiled. "The Veltorian Empire has been exploring the stars for 10,000 years. And you think you are ready to stand among the great civilizations?" "We don't claim to be great," Ambassador Ji-won said carefully. "We simply hope to learn and build friendships." How humble. Kethaval turned to Princess Ariva. "And you believe these humans are worthy of an alliance? Based on what evidence?" The princess met his gaze steadily. "Based on 3 days of observation and conversation, the humans have shown qualities that I find admirable, such as adaptability, courage, honesty in their actions." Kethaval laughed, a sound that made several humans shift uncomfortably. "Honesty? They are primitives playing at civilization. They know nothing of proper culture or refinement. Look at them, sitting at this table like equals when they have accomplished nothing of value." The humans remained silent, but Taemin could see the anger in their faces. Captain Hyun-woo's jaw was tight. Ambassador Ji-won's eyes had gone cold. "You insult my judgment, Lord Kethaval," Princess Ariva said. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "I seek to protect it, Princess. Your fascination with these humans is understandable. They are novel, different from what you have known. But novelty is not the same as worth. The Veltorian Empire cannot build alliances based on curiosity alone." "Then what would you suggest?" Kethaval stood, his robes flowing dramatically. "A demonstration. If the humans are truly worthy of our attention, let them prove it. I propose a traditional test of merit." Princess Ariva's skin markings flickered. "That is a serious proposal, Lord Kethaval." "These are serious matters, Princess. The future of the Empire may depend on the alliances we forge. Should we not ensure our potential allies are capable?" Ambassador Ji-won leaned toward Captain Hyun-woo, whispering urgently. Taemin couldn't hear what they said, but both looked worried. "What kind of test?" the captain asked. The Trial of Three, Kethaval explained. An ancient Veltorian tradition. 3 challenges that test mind, body, and spirit. If a human can pass these trials, I will acknowledge their worth and support the alliance. If they fail, the princess should reconsider this foolish venture. We did not come here to prove ourselves through combat. Ambassador Jiwan protested. Not combat challenges, tests of capability. Kethaval smiled. Unless you fear your people cannot succeed? It was a trap. Taman could see it clearly. Refusing would make humans look weak and fearful. Accepting meant competing in tests designed by an alien culture, tests they didn't understand. Princess Ariva stood. Lord Kethaval, this is not necessary. I have already evaluated the humans and found them satisfactory. With respect, Princess, you have spent time with engineers and diplomats. You have not seen them tested under pressure. How can you judge their worth without seeing their limits? I have seen enough. Then you will not object to them demonstrating their abilities more formally. Kethaval turned to Captain Hyunwoo. What say you, Captain? Will humanity accept the challenge, or will you retreat back to your small corner of space? The captain looked at Ambassador Jiwan. They seemed to have an entire conversation with their eyes. Finally, the captain spoke. What would these trials involve? 3 tests, as I said. The first tests mental capability. The second tests physical prowess. The third tests judgment and courage. A human champion will compete against Veltorian competitors. All challenges are non-lethal, but they are not easy. And if we refuse, then I will report to the Emperor that the humans are timid and unworthy of alliance. Other noble houses will hear of this. The princess's reputation will suffer for having wasted time on cowards. Princess Ariva's expression hardened. You go too far, Lord Kethaval. I speak truth, Princess. You know the politics of court as well as I do. Silence filled the dining hall. Taman felt every heartbeat. The humans had come here hoping for friendship, not competition. But they were being forced into a corner. Then Princess Ariva did something shocking. She looked directly at Taman. Engineer Taman, would you stand, please? Taman's blood went cold. Every eye in the room turned to him. He stood slowly, his legs feeling weak. This human will be humanity's champion, the princess declared. Taman's mind went blank. What had she just done? Captain Hyunwoo looked stunned. Ambassador Jiwan's mouth fell open. Da-Hyun, sitting several seats away, looked like she might faint. Princess, Taman managed to say, I'm just an engineer. There are much more qualified people here. Precisely why I choose you, Princess Ariva said. Her eyes met his and he saw something in them. Trust. Belief. You represent the qualities I have observed in humanity. Instinct over calculation. Action over hesitation. If anyone can demonstrate human worth, it is you. Lord Kethaval studied Taman with interest. An engineer? Not a warrior or leader? This should be entertaining. When would these trials take place? Captain Hyunwoo asked. His voice suggested he was still processing what had just happened. Tomorrow, Kethaval said. I will provide the details in the morning. Rest well, human champion. You will need your strength. The Veltorian noble and his attendants left the dining hall. The moment they were gone, chaos erupted. Captain Hyunwoo stood so quickly his chair fell over. Ambassador Jiwan started speaking rapidly into her communication device. Other crew members crowded around Taemin, asking questions he couldn't answer. Princess Ariva approached him. Commander Velrath tried to intercept her, but she waved him away. She stood close to Taemin, speaking quietly so only he could hear. I apologize for putting this burden on you without asking, but Kethaval forced my hand. He seeks to undermine me and prevent this alliance. Why me, though? Taemin asked. I'm nobody special. That is where you are wrong. The princess's hand moved as if she wanted to touch his arm, then stopped. I have watched you these past 3 days. You solve problems creatively. You do not give up when things are difficult, and you act from instinct when it matters. These are the qualities needed for the trials, and what if I fail? Then I will have been wrong about humanity, and I must accept that. But I do not believe I am wrong. She smiled slightly. Trust yourself, Taemin. Trust the instincts that led you to catch me when I was in danger of falling. Those same instincts will guide you through the trials. She left before he could respond. Taemin stood surrounded by anxious humans, all looking at him like he held humanity's future in his hands. Maybe he did. Tomorrow would tell. Taemin spent the night reviewing everything Daun could tell him about Veltorian culture and competition. He didn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined himself failing in front of everyone, proving Lord Kethaval right and disappointing Princess Ariva. The morning arrived too soon. Captain Yunwoo called a meeting in the briefing room. The ship's senior staff gathered around the table, all looking at Taemin with expressions ranging from concern to pity. Lord Kethaval sent the trial details an hour ago, the captain said, projecting information onto the main screen. The first trial tests mental capability. You'll need to solve a complex puzzle involving Veltorian mathematics and spatial reasoning. The second trial is a physical challenge in zero gravity. The third trial involves a simulation scenario where you must make difficult choices. Taemin studied the information, his stomach churning. How much time do I have to prepare? The trials begin in 3 hours, Ambassador Jiwan said. I'm sorry. Kethaval deliberately gave us minimal preparation time. This is completely unfair, Daun protested. Taemin doesn't know Veltorian mathematics. How can he compete against people who have studied it their whole lives? He can't, one of the science officers said bluntly. We need to refuse this challenge and find another way. There is no other way, Captain Hyunwoo said. Refusing now would be seen as cowardice. The political damage would be severe. So we sacrifice Taemin's dignity to save face. No one is being sacrificed. The captain looked at Taemin. You're under no obligation to do this. If you want to refuse, I'll support that decision and deal with the consequences. Taemin thought about Princess Ariva's words. She had believed in him enough to make him humanity's champion. She had seen something in him that she valued. Could he really back down now? I'll do it, he said quietly. Taemin, you don't have to... Daun started. Yes, I do. The princess chose me for a reason. Maybe I'll fail, but I have to try. The next 3 hours passed in a blur. Daun tried to teach him basic Veltorian mathematical symbols. The ship's fitness instructor gave him tips for moving in zero gravity. Ambassador Jiwan briefed him on Veltorian customs for competition. His head felt stuffed with information he barely understood. Finally, it was time. The trials would take place in a large cargo bay that had been converted into an arena. Both human and Veltorian delegations gathered to watch. Taemin entered the bay in his work uniform, choosing comfort over formal appearance. Princess Ariva sat in a special viewing area with her attendants. Lord Kethaval sat opposite her, looking smug. 3 Veltorian competitors stood waiting, all of them looking confident and well-prepared. A Veltorian official explained the rules. Each trial would be judged by a neutral panel of 3 Veltorians who were not part of either delegation. Scoring would be based on speed, accuracy, and approach. Taemin didn't have to win. He just had to demonstrate competence. The first trial began. A massive holographic puzzle appeared in the center of the bay. It showed a complex 3-dimensional structure with symbols and numbers that meant nothing to Taemin. The goal was to identify the pattern and arrange the symbols in the correct sequence. The 3 Veltorian competitors went first. They worked quickly, their hands moving through the holographic display with practiced ease. The first one finished in 8 minutes. The second took 6 minutes. The third completed it in just under 5 minutes. The crowd of Veltorians applauded politely. Then it was Taemin's turn. He stood before the puzzle, feeling completely lost. The symbols looked like abstract art. The numbers used a base 12 system he didn't understand. He could feel everyone watching him, waiting for him to fail. But then he remembered his training as an engineer. When faced with an unfamiliar system, you look for patterns. You don't try to understand everything at once. You break it down into smaller pieces. Taemin stopped trying to read the Veltorian symbols and started looking at their shapes. He noticed that certain symbols appeared in specific positions relative to others. He started moving pieces around, testing relationships. When he put 2 particular symbols together, they pulsed with light. That was feedback. That told him he was on the right track. He worked methodically, testing connections and building patterns. It took him much longer than the Veltorian competitors. 15 minutes. 20 minutes. Some of the watching Veltorians started whispering. Lord Kethaval smiled. But Princess Ariva leaned forward, watching intently. She saw what Taemin was doing. He wasn't solving the puzzle the Veltorian way. He was finding his own path through it, using human logic and engineering principles. After 32 minutes, the puzzle chimed. Taemin had completed it. The judges conferred briefly. then announced their decision. While his time was much slower, his approach showed creative problem-solving. He received a passing score. The second trial was the physical challenge. The cargo bay's gravity was turned off. A complex obstacle course appeared, made of floating platforms, barriers, and moving obstacles. The goal was to navigate from start to finish as quickly as possible without touching the red zones. The Veltorian competitors went first again. They moved through the course with fluid grace, their bodies perfectly adapted to zero-gravity movement. They had clearly trained for this. The fastest time was 90 seconds. Taemin pushed off from the starting platform, immediately struggling with the lack of gravity. He spun awkwardly, overcorrecting his movements. The Veltorians in the audience made sounds that might have been laughter, but Taemin had spent years maintaining ships in zero gravity. He knew how to work in this environment. He just needed to stop trying to move like the Veltorians and start moving like a human engineer. He used his momentum differently, pushing off surfaces at angles that seemed wrong but got him where he needed to go. When he couldn't reach a platform, he grabbed a small tool from his belt and threw it, using the equal and opposite reaction to adjust his trajectory. The Veltorians watching fell silent. This was not how anyone solved this course. Taemin was improvising, using tools and techniques that weren't part of the official challenge. But he wasn't breaking any rules. He finished in 2 minutes and 40 seconds, much slower than the Veltorian competitors. But the judges were impressed by his creative use of physics and his refusal to give up, despite obvious disadvantages. Another passing score. The final trial was the most important. A simulation appeared in the holographic display. Taemin was placed in a scenario where he commanded a ship in crisis. A disaster was occurring, and he had limited time to make decisions. The scenario presented him with an impossible choice. A station was losing life support. He could save the princess, who was trapped in one section, or he could save a cultural artifact of immense importance to the Veltorian people. The artifact was in a different section. He could only reach one before the station was destroyed. The 3 Veltorian competitors had all chosen to save the artifact. Their culture valued history and tradition highly. It was the expected choice, the one that honored their civilization. Taemin studied the scenario. He saw the princess's trapped location. He saw the artifact's location. He checked the time remaining. Then he made his decision. He piloted the ship toward the princess's location. He didn't hesitate. He didn't agonize over the choice. He simply acted, his hands moving quickly through the controls. He reached the section where the princess was trapped, extended the docking tunnel, and began evacuation procedures. The simulation ended. The artifact was destroyed. The princess was saved. The cargo bay went completely silent. Lord Kethaval stood, his face dark with anger. He chose wrong. The artifact was priceless. It represented 10,000 years of our history. But Princess Ariva was standing too. Her skin markings glowed brightly, cycling through colors Taemin had never seen. She was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "No," she said softly. Then louder, "No, he did not choose wrong." She walked down from the viewing area and approached Taemin. Everyone watched as she stood before him. "Why did you choose to save me?" she asked. Taemin met her eyes. "Because you're alive. The artifact is important, I understand that. But it's an object. You're a person. In my culture, we believe that people are more valuable than things. Always. Even if that person is from another species. Even if saving me means losing something precious to my people. Yes, because any civilization's real value is in its living people, not in its past. You can build new artifacts. You can create new history. But you can't bring back someone who's dead." Princess Ariva smiled. Not the small smile she had shown before. This was a full, genuine smile that transformed her face. "That," she said, "is the most human thing I have ever heard. And it is beautiful." She turned to address the judges in the crowd. "This human has passed all 3 trials. He did not use our methods or our logic. He used his own. And in doing so, he showed me exactly what humanity offers. A different perspective. A different set of values. We Veltorians have become so focused on preserving our past that we sometimes forget to value our present." She looked at Lord Kethaval. "You wanted proof of human worth. There it is. They choose life over tradition. They choose action over calculation. They choose the living over the dead. These are not weaknesses. These are strengths we have forgotten. Lord Kethaval's expression was cold, but he bowed. The human passed the trials. The celebration after the trials was subdued. The humans were relieved that Taemin had succeeded, but they were also exhausted from the stress. The Veltorians seemed thoughtful rather than celebratory, as if the trials had raised more questions than answers. Taemin excused himself early and retreated to his quarters. He needed time alone to process everything that had happened. He had just competed in alien trials and somehow passed. Princess Ariva had defended him publicly. Lord Kethaval had been forced to concede. It all felt surreal. A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to find Ambassador Ji-Wan standing outside. "May I come in?" she asked. Taemin stepped aside to let her enter. The ambassador looked tired but satisfied. She sat in the small chair near his desk and gestured for him to sit as well. "You did well today," she said. "Better than anyone expected." "I got lucky," Taemin replied. "No, you were smart and adaptable." "Those are different from luck," she paused. "Princess Ariva has requested a private meeting with you, Captain Hyunwoo, and myself tomorrow morning. She says she has important information to share about why she approached humanity for an alliance." Taemin felt nervous again. "What kind of information?" She wouldn't say, but she was very specific that you needed to be there. Ambassador Ji-Wan leaned forward. "Taemin, I need to ask you something directly. Has the princess said or done anything that seems unusual? Anything that doesn't fit with what we know about Veltorian culture?" He thought carefully. "She asks personal questions about how I think, why I make certain choices. She seems more interested in me as an individual than as a representative of humanity." "That's what I thought." The ambassador sighed. "Taeyun has been analyzing the princess's behavior. She believes the princess has been engaged in something called Valresh, which is a Veltorian evaluation process. Usually it's used before forming important partnerships or alliances." "What kind of partnerships?" "That's the complicated part. Valresh can apply to political alliances, business arrangements, or personal bonds. We don't know which one the princess has in mind." Taemin felt his face grow warm. "You think she might be interested in me romantically?" "I don't know. Veltorian romance is very different from human romance, but there's definitely something specific about her interest in you." The ambassador stood. "Whatever happens tomorrow, remember that you represent humanity, but you're also a person with your own feelings and choices. Don't let the political situation pressure you into something you're not comfortable with." After she left, Taemin lay awake for hours, thinking about the princess. He had to admit he was attracted to her. She was beautiful, intelligent, and kind, but she was also an alien royal from a civilization thousands of years old. What could she possibly want with a simple human engineer? Morning came. Taemin dressed in his formal uniform and made his way to the captain's private conference room. Captain Hyunwoo and Ambassador Ji-Won were already there. Princess Ariva arrived moments later, accompanied only by Commander Velrath. The lack of additional attendance suggested this meeting was meant to be very private. The princess waited until everyone was seated, then dismissed Commander Velrath. He looked reluctant to leave, but obeyed. Once the door closed, the princess's formal demeanor shifted. She suddenly looked tired and worried. "Thank you for meeting with me," she began. "What I am about to tell you is not widely known among my people. It is a truth that our leadership has hidden for many years." Captain Hyunwoo and Ambassador Ji-Won exchanged glances. Taemin simply waited, sensing that something important was coming. "The Veltorian Empire is dying," the princess said quietly. "Not through war or disease, but through stagnation. We have become so rigid, so focused on tradition and protocol, that we have stopped growing. Our birth rates are declining. Our creativity has diminished. We maintain our technology but rarely innovate. We are a civilization frozen in time, slowly fading away." The humans sat in stunned silence. This was not what they had expected to hear. "For the past 10 years I have been studying this problem," Princess Ariva continued. "I have searched for solutions within our own culture, and found none. Then I learned about humanity, a young species barely out of their home system, full of chaos and contradictions. You make mistakes constantly. You fight among yourselves. Your technology is primitive, but you have something we lost millennia ago." "What?" Ambassador Ji-Won asked. "The ability to change, to adapt, to take risks without knowing the outcome." The princess looked directly at Taemin. "When you touched me accidentally, you showed me something I had only read about in our ancient texts. You acted on instinct. You prioritized immediate safety over social protocol. That kind of spontaneous action is almost impossible for modern Veltorians. That's why you weren't angry, Taemin said, understanding dawning. Exactly. You revealed something about humanity that I desperately needed to see. You are alive in a way my people are not. You feel deeply. You act without endless calculation. You value individuals over institutions. Captain Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. You're not just looking for an alliance. You're looking for something to shake up your civilization. Yes, the princess admitted. I believe that exposure to humanity might remind my people of what they have lost. Your chaos might be exactly what we need to break free from our paralysis. That's a dangerous gamble, Ambassador Jiwon observed. Introducing change to a stable civilization can cause upheaval. Stability without growth is just slow death. I would rather risk upheaval than watch my people fade into extinction. The princess's hands clenched. But I needed to be sure. I needed to understand humans beyond diplomatic presentations and carefully prepared briefings. That is why I requested Taemin as my liaison. I wanted to interact with a human who was genuine, not performing for political purposes. Taemin felt exposed, like all his thoughts and feelings over the past week had been part of an experiment. So you were studying me? Yes, and I apologize for the deception. The princess looked genuinely remorseful. But I learned what I needed to know. You confirmed my theories about humanity. You are adaptable, instinctive, and brave. During the trials, you solved problems in ways no Veltorian would consider. You chose life over tradition. These are not weaknesses. These are strengths. What do you want from us? Captain Hyunwoo asked. A partnership. Not just a political alliance, but a true cultural exchange. I want humans to come to our homeworld. I want them to work alongside my people, to show us different ways of thinking and living. I want to learn from you, and I hope we can teach you things as well. That's a significant commitment, Ambassador Jiwon said carefully. It would require approval from Earth's government. We'd need to assign people for long-term positions. It would change both our cultures. I understand. But I believe it is necessary. Princess Ariva turned to Taemin again. There is one more thing I must address. In Veltorian culture, the evaluation process I have conducted has a specific name. Valresh can mean political assessment, but it can also mean courtship evaluation. Taemin's heart began to race. Which one were you doing? Both, initially. I needed to evaluate humanity as a whole, but I also needed to evaluate you as an individual. She paused, and for the first time she looked uncertain. I must be honest with you, Taemin. By our customs, my behavior toward you over the past week would be understood as romantic interest. I have been courting you, though I know you did not realize it. The room went very quiet. Captain Hyunwoo and Ambassador Jiwon looked shocked. Taemin felt like he couldn't breathe. I am not asking for commitment, the princess said quickly. Human and Veltorian courtship are very different. I simply wanted you to understand the truth. My interest in you is not purely political. When I said I liked what happened during our first meeting, I meant it on multiple levels, Princess. Ambassador Jiwon said carefully. A romantic relationship between you and a human would have significant political implications. I am aware. But that is a problem for later. Right now I am simply being honest about my feelings. She looked at Taemin. You do not need to respond. I know this is unexpected and probably unwelcome. Taemin found his voice. It's not unwelcome. It's just confusing. I'm nobody special. I'm an engineer. You're a princess from an ancient civilization. Why would you be interested in me? Because you are genuine. Because you act from your heart. Because when faced with an impossible choice, you chose to save life rather than preserve tradition. She smiled softly. Because when you touched me accidentally, your first concern was for my safety, not for your own embarrassment. These are qualities I value more than status or power. Captain Hyunwoo cleared his throat. This is getting very personal. Perhaps the ambassador and I should leave you two to talk privately. No, Taemin said. I mean, not yet. I need to understand something first. He looked at the princess. You said your civilization is dying. Is this just about finding a solution to that problem? Are your feelings for me real, or are they part of a political strategy? The princess met his eyes steadily. That is a fair question. The truth is complicated. Yes, I approached humanity because I need solutions for my people. But my feelings for you developed naturally as 3 weeks passed in a blur of meetings, negotiations, and planning. The formal alliance between humanity and the Veltorian Empire was drafted, reviewed, and signed. Earth's government was thrilled. This was humanity's first major alliance with an advanced alien civilization. The agreement included technology sharing, cultural exchanges, and joint exploration missions. Most importantly, it established a permanent human presence on the Veltorian homeworld. A delegation of scientists, engineers, and cultural specialists would live among the Veltorians for at least 5 years. Taman stood in his quarters, packing his belongings into storage containers. He had been selected as part of the exchange delegation. The decision had been his to make, and it had not been easy. Dayun sat on his bed watching him pack. "Are you sure about this? 5 years is a long time to be away from Earth, away from family and friends." "I'm sure," Timon said, though his hands trembled slightly as he folded a uniform. "This is important, not just for humanity, but for the Veltorians too, and maybe for me personally." "You mean because of the princess, and that's part of it, but not all of it." Taemin sat down beside his friend. "For my whole life, I've played it safe. I became an engineer because it was stable and predictable. I avoided risks. I stayed in my comfortable zone. But this past month has shown me something different. Sometimes the most important moments come from taking chances." Dayun smiled. "You sound like her. Maybe that's not a bad thing." Taemin resumed packing. "What about you? You're coming too, right?" "Of course. Do you think I'd miss the chance to study Veltorian biology up close? This is the opportunity of a lifetime." She paused. "But I'm nervous. Their culture is so different from ours. What if we make mistakes? What if we cause problems? We will make mistakes. That's part of being human. But I think that's exactly what the princess wants. She doesn't want us to be perfect. She wants us to be ourselves." A chime at the door interrupted them. Taemin opened it to find Captain Hyunwoo standing outside. "May I come in?" the captain asked. Taemin nodded, and Dayun excused herself to give them privacy. Captain Hyunwoo sat in the small chair and looked at the half-packed containers. "Having second thoughts?" he asked. "Not really. Just normal nervousness, I think." "That's healthy. Anyone who wasn't nervous about this would be a fool." The captain smiled. "I wanted to talk to you before you left. You're going to be the face of humanity on an alien world. That's a huge responsibility. I know. Ambassador Jiwon has given me about 100 briefings on proper behavior and diplomatic protocols. Forget all that for a moment." The captain leaned forward. "I want to give you different advice. Be yourself. That's what the princess responded to in the first place. Not your diplomatic skills or your technical knowledge. She liked that you were genuine. But what if being myself causes problems? Then you'll handle those problems when they come. Taemin, you've already done something most people never do. You accidentally touched an alien princess, and instead of causing an interstellar incident, you started an alliance. If you can handle that, you can handle whatever comes next." After the captain left, Taemin finished packing. He took one last look around his quarters, saying goodbye to this chapter of his life. Tomorrow he would leave the ship and travel to the Veltorian homeworld. His new life was about to begin. The next morning, the delegation gathered in the main docking bay. There were 12 humans in total: scientists, engineers, cultural specialists, and a small security team. They would all be traveling aboard the Veltorian ship that had been waiting nearby for the past week. Princess Ariva was there to greet them personally. She wore formal robes for the occasion, white and silver with flowing layers that caught the light. Her skin markings glowed softly, showing colors that Taemin had learned meant pleasure and anticipation. The princess gave a brief speech, thanking the humans for their willingness to make this journey. She promised that they would be treated with respect and honor on her homeworld. Then she approached Taemin, who stood with Daun near the back of the group. "Are you ready?" the princess asked quietly. "As ready as I'll ever be," Taemin replied. "I know this is difficult, leaving your home, your people, but I promise you will not regret it." She hesitated, then added even more quietly, "And I promise I will do everything in my power to make you feel welcome." They boarded the Veltorian ship. It was larger than the human vessel, with corridors that seemed to flow organically rather than being built from straight lines and right angles. The walls glowed with soft light that changed color as they walked past. Everything felt alive and somehow ancient. Taemin was shown to his quarters, a room that was larger than his entire cabin on the human ship. A large window showed the stars outside. The furniture was strange but comfortable, designed for Veltorian proportions but adjusted for human use. He stood at the window, watching the human ship grow smaller as the Veltorian vessel pulled away. He was really doing this. He was leaving behind everything familiar and traveling to an alien world. It was terrifying and exciting in equal measure. A soft sound made him turn. Princess Ariva stood in the doorway. She had changed from her formal robes into something simpler, less elaborate. It made her look younger, more approachable. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said. "I wanted to make sure you were settling in. The quarters are amazing. Thank you. You are welcome." She entered the room slowly, as if unsure whether she should. "Taman, I know the past few weeks have been overwhelming. Everything changed so quickly for you. For both of us, I think." "Yes, that is true." She moved to stand beside him at the window. They watched the stars together in silence for a moment. "May I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "When you chose to save me instead of the artifact during the trial, was it only because of your human values? Or was there something more personal in that choice?" Taman thought carefully before answering. "At first it was just instinct. In human culture, we save people first. But I'd be lying if I said it was only that. By the time of the trials, I already cared about you as an individual. Not just as a princess or a political figure. As a person." Princess Ariva's skin markings shifted to warm gold tones. "I'm glad to hear that. Because I care about you as well. Not just as a representative of humanity, but as Taman, the engineer who catches people when they fall." "Where does that leave us?" Taman asked. "I mean, we're from different species. Different cultures. You're royalty and I'm nobody. How could this possibly work?" "I do not have all the answers," the princess admitted. "Veltorian and human romance are very different. Our courtship customs would seem strange to you and yours seem strange to me. But perhaps that is not a bad thing. Perhaps we can create something new. A relationship that belongs to neither culture completely, but to both of us." She turned to face him fully. In the soft light from the window, she looked almost human. But the subtle differences, the alien beauty, reminded Taman of how remarkable this moment was. "I am not asking for promises," she continued. "I am not asking for commitment. I am simply asking if you would be willing to spend time with me, to let us know each other better, to see if what we both feel can grow into something real." Taman smiled. "I think I'd like that. But you have to promise me something." "What?" "No more tests. No more evaluations. Just two people getting to know each other honestly." Princess Ariva laughed, a sound like soft bells. "Agreed, no more tests, just honesty." She reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted. When he didn't move, her hand touched his. Her skin was warmer than he expected, smooth and slightly textured where her markings were. Their fingers intertwined, human and Veltorian. "This feels right," she said softly. "Yeah," Taman agreed. "It does." They stood together at the window as the ship jumped to faster than light speed. The stars stretched and blurred around them, beautiful and strange. Ahead lay the Veltorian homeworld and all its mysteries. Behind lay Earth and everything Taman had known. But in this moment, holding hands with an alien princess, Taman felt no regret. He had taken a chance. He had stepped outside his comfortable life. And whatever came next, he would face it with courage and honesty. Princess Ariva squeezed his hand gently. "Thank you, Taman. For what?" "For catching me when I needed it. Both literally and figuratively." She smiled. That same smile from their first meeting. Sometimes the smallest actions change the course of history. "You touched me accidentally and it changed everything. Two civilizations found each other because you acted on instinct." "I just didn't want anyone to get hurt," Taman said. "That is exactly why it mattered. You put safety above protocol. Life above rules. That simple human instinct might just save my people from slow extinction." She leaned her head against his shoulder, a gesture of trust and affection. "So thank you. For being exactly who you are." They stood together watching the stars, two people from different worlds finding common ground. The future was uncertain. The challenges would be enormous. But they would face them together, combining human adaptability with Veltorian wisdom. And it all started because an engineer accidentally touched a princess and she smiled. "I like it," Princess Ariva had said that first day. She still meant it, and Taman was beginning to